I wanted to welcome everyone. I want to welcome everyone to the May 24th special meeting with the town of Inlet to discuss the current snowmobile agreement between the two towns. There will be no public comment this evening. Thank everyone for coming. For the record, representing the town of Inlet, we have Supervisor John Fry, Councilman Herbert Schmidt, Councilman John Townsend, Councilman Tim Brownsell, Town Clerk Bonnie Lutz, and Publicity Director Adele Burnett. Thank you, Inlet, for coming. Thank you for asking for this meeting. You now have the floor.
I'll speak at once.
Well, I know this has been a long time coming. You guys had asked to have a couple of meetings at least 2 years ago. We've been back and forth a couple of times. I think we've got a couple of big things that really stand out. Probably first and foremost is a tie between the remuneration between the towns and the percentage that we have, and possibly the software program that's being utilized right now. Being remote, we have some issues connecting to that program, and we'd like to make the offer to pay for a new program. Not on your dime. Watch Herb get a little goofy when I say
maybe we
that.
all aren't quite there, but
You know, I know we set the rate years ago before I was here. I think the only one that's got any contact to that might actually be Bonnie. I think her parents helped set that rate years ago.
Oh, mine.
Yeah.
Mr. Baker, Art Baker.
Yeah.
You weren't here?
Ding, 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 ding. He was here.
There you go.
1981.
Seems like you would have been here too.
No.
You know, through the years, it's gone back and forth as to
Yes.
who's sold more, who's sold less. I mean, there were years where we were giving you guys checks because we were open at night and you guys weren't open at night prior to the internet. Now the internet's come along, and the internet's kind of helped but messed things up for us in Inlet. We're not processing as many as you guys are because the way the software is working right now. It's a little tough. I think we could be doing more to help you guys with the processing. Take a little load off your information office down here. That said, I like to think that the remuneration at 14%.
yeah.
I always like to say 17%, but I know that's probably not going to fly. Has worked for us. I think it's worked for both towns. In order to keep the appropriate amount of equipment on the trails, that to me is more of a basis than miles of trails. I'd like to see us maybe work towards more of a unified program with that equipment. I think Adele's probably going to speak to that in a little bit, right?
Sure.
Sure. Since Sean's not here, but and I like to tie it also to access. You know, the fact that the two towns working together realized a long time ago that it gives us an opening on both ends. You know, gets you guys into Hamilton County a little further, gets us down towards McKeever. It's always, for lack of a better term, worked. In my opinion, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm overselling it. That's my job. But that's just, for me in a nutshell, where I'd like to come from on two angles. Make sure that we're okay on the remuneration and maybe see if we can get some new software to help both of us.
Can I add?
Yeah, go ahead. She's the real boss.
I found, I looked over the contract from 1987 that we had signed, and it states in there that the town of Inlet will receive 14% of gross receipts, and town of Webb will receive 86%. However, it does add that the town of Webb and the town of Inlet will be proportionally responsible for their proportion of the expenses. So in other words, we're responsible for 14% of the expenses, and you would be responsible for 86% of their expenses. In noting that, I just have one issue that's been going on as the bookkeeper, not as the town clerk, that we've always taken your credit card fees off the top income, and then you give us our portion and you take your portion of the, really what should be happening if we were to pay your credit card fees at all, because we don't have credit card fees, which I'd love to see you guys switch to.
We're trying to do that now.
Okay, great. Would be that we would pay 14% of the credit card fees until you no longer have them. Right now, that's not really how it's working out, because you take it off the income. So you take what you get for a total of income, then you take your credit card fees off, and then we start splitting up proportionately. So that would be my only addition to what I see, for what it's worth.
When everybody talks expenses, what can you, in your thought, John, what do you mean expenses?
Permits, getting the permits printed, I think is a big one. Mailings and the credit card fees. I think those are the top three, unless I'm missing something.
Well, we do.
Software
Yeah,
support.
those are the only expenses
Yeah.
related to
That's what I
the,
just want to
Yeah.
We
clarify.
both have kind of equal staff, it's not like,
Yeah, we're not diving down into
No,
fuel for the
no.
machines.
No, I just want to clarify
Right.
everybody
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
I have a question about equipment. What do you have for groomers?
Right now, we've got two relatively new piston bullies. We also have a Honda, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Honda 4x4 on tracks. And 4 drags.
With a brand new piston bully.
yeah, we just bought one.
Oh yeah, we just bought one.
You
And
have 5
that's-
roomers, right? I think.
That includes the two, right?
Yeah.
The
That's
new
two
one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, the new one is,
We have 3 groomers operational during the winter. We found it much easier where they're internal trails with, especially the way New York State's come down with its corridors or connector trails and side trails, local trails. It's just a lot easier to take the smaller groomer in on some of those.
You guys just run full-size groomers, but you don't have them smaller?
We have a tractor with that has
With drag.
tires or the log when
Right.
early season. We're gonna
Oh, yeah,
put,
yeah.
put the
As
frost
far
down.
as grooming.
Yeah.
But that's our small-
We use that Honda for that too.
Yeah.
But it does have a small drags.
Yeah, so early season though, you'll see them just run that around to
Sure, yeah.
push the frost in. That's about
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
We have a crew of 2 dedicated and 2 more that we can pull from part-time, either highway. The benefit of us merging our highway and our grooming facility a couple of years ago was the fact that all the employees could shift over if needed. We've just recently started to separate that a little bit. We got a new highway garage, and we took the old highway garage and have turned half of it into the snowmobile barn. We're growing. I don't like to say growing too much because Herb gets excited.
How many miles are in the inlet system like that you guys are responsible to maintain? Or how many miles on trails?
You got that recently, Bonnie?
I only know what the
Roughly.
claim with New York State, and that's the non-refundable. I probably isn't here though. I'll look at that if you want to refer back to me on that, but.
Yeah, I mean, our biggest asset and then our biggest headache, the headache is the roadside trail into Eagle Bay from Inlet. It's almost impossible to keep smooth. Same thing you guys have with Trail 5 from Eagle Bay to Dakers. It's just, there's too much sun, there's too much salt, there's too much ridership. I hate to say too much ridership, but for that trail, there's almost too much ridership.
Because there's no other way through.
There's no other way through.
Same with us, there's just no way, which is on that. It's just-
The Mooseford Plains, that's our biggest claim to, quite honestly, claim to fame. That, and I think also the FX Mats Trail, it's one of those trails that, even though a large percentage of that's probably in the town of Webb, we take care of that, because it's a great connector over there. Takes a little of the heat off of South Shore Road when it's nice. Non-Mooseford Plains, I'd say we probably have trails, maybe 30 to 50. Mooseford Plains, depending on what loops are open, what New York State will let us use, there's about 40 to 50 in there too. And then roads, I mean, if you want to count roads, because the roads for us, Uncas Road is a headache, South Shore Road is a headache, as I'm sure South Shore Road is a headache for you guys. We still do have to do some taking care of that and cleaning up driveways when things get messy. So, you toss those in there, there's about another 30 miles of got to take care of. Those are averages.
This contract has been updated since 1987.
mhm.
there wasn't an expiry date or anything like that. It's still intact.
It's always just been an agreement moving forward.
Yeah, I think it renews automatically unless somebody, you read me that thing that says in September you're supposed to
Unless
send a
somebody
letter?
puts in writing.
Yeah, in September to renegotiate it.
So by September.
Yeah, by September it has to be renegotiated.
What's the software that you would recommend then, and what would that do, I guess?
Can I drag you into this, Danny?
That's why we brought him here.
So early on, we did engage a web developer. So it would be a web-based program that would be decentralized. I'm not going to get into the specifics, but if we had a centralized system, it might, whether it was on the town of Webb's accounts, and if you guys did move to a no fee or a, the customer pays the fee for credit cards, everything would be all online. You could distribute 14% of the permits to Adele's office to be mailed out, and 86 to Alexis, and then they get sent out. Right now, a lot of your labor is taking the old system, going into the system, assigning numbers, and then mailing the system out, and they have to re-enter everything every year. So it was never, the software was about as old as the contract, or pretty damn close. It's amazing that the software that it runs currently on is still even available to continue to run, which it doesn't often. So if the internet goes out here, which seems to go out a lot for some reason, or the program crashes, no one can access anything.
Is it still Alpha 4?
It's FileMaker Pro.
FileMaker Pro, because I know Dan Tickner originally designed it.
Yes, he did. He did.
And what is the software program that the name of it that you're looking into now?
Well, it would be a web-based program, so probably
Is there a
it would be
company name?
PHP. Well, it's not really a company, but I approached a web developer in Kanjahari.
So is there anything on pricing or anything, or?
We didn't get specific on pricing, but
So basically, you're creating a custom website that's going to collect
create a custom website.
that
It's,
anybody can click,
Yeah, I got it.
go on
and it's expansive as far as you want to go. So each clerk could have their own login. You could see who manipulated the files and why. It could automatically assign numbers, or you go in, all you do is you see if there's a payment. You could take checks if you wanted to and just write paid. You assign the number, give them the thing. And we were thinking, well, if it's just a web-based, we could put a kiosk right out in the foyer, and they're like, I'm here for a permit in person. There's the kiosk. If they need help, you can come out and help them. Otherwise, they just go do it themselves. Mm-hmm. And it does not require, 4 clerks to be getting ready to take permits.
So would the money still be going to the town of Webb when it's?
Yeah, you would
collected
just have
and
to
then
decide how
just
you're gonna do
distribute
that.
it back out the same way?
I mean, I know that Bonnie definitely has some concerns about it, so, and that we had a couple of quick meetings saying that sure, it's doable. And then to run a separate payment processor could be, could be complicated, but you could also just charge the customer. Or the permits are $96.29, and then the rest is the credit card fees, whatever you want to figure out.
How long have you guys not done the credit card fees, like not paid for them yourselves, like
About 6
put them on the
6
customer?
years.
5 years.
The comptroller actually beat us up pretty hard. Said, you're not supposed to be doing that. Please don't.
Yeah,
So,
we're right around the corner with that.
Well, one of our kind of dilemmas with the percentage thing, what's been hitting us. And I have sat here a long time, and I kept saying to everybody, winters have been a little tough. I think the permit sales are gonna be less, and I've been wrong. They've been growing. And we try to budget for that, and we always have been wrong. We just haven't been able to figure a budget out. I still say one of these years, sales are gonna be less, but maybe, I hope I'm wrong, but you would think that we've had some pretty bad winters. And the price of snowmobiles are getting expensive, and a lot of things are happening in the world. So, I guess, to summarize, budgeting for it has been one of our toughest things.
is it more on the revenue side or on the expenditure side?
The revenue, probably.
The nice thing about a revenue is, as long as you don't set it too high, you can go over it.
expenditure side.
That's been my struggle for the last 14 years on our budgets, just to make sure that we don't goose that. Right now, we probably have anywhere from 15 to 35,000 more coming in on that revenue line. And I've kind of kept it the same with the board's approval at 115.
Well, we tried that, but we seem to be shy.
You might have put it too high.
Where's the expenditure?
This is actually expenditure.
No,
It's actually the expenditure.
And so just the projections, because it has increased each year, which is great, our bad, we under budgeted. We didn't have the right expectation
But
for it.
either town budgeting, it's the same, we don't know what winter's gonna do either.
Correct.
Exactly, I understand, but
You know, who knows?
If the
Right, your revenues are higher, your expenses are higher, right?
anywhere, this is just how I do budgeting, and with the board's approval. I always say, I set the budget out, they pass it. Gas, equipment, any of those lines, maintenance, I always try to keep a little bit high. I got beat up by our previous bookkeeper, Mary Marlowe. She's not here, she. Don't cut too much. Best advice I ever got. And quite honestly, New York State doesn't let us keep enough funds in the bank, unallocated assets, but I still try to build that a little bit each year in the budget, and one of the ways to do that is you keep gas and equipment and maintenance a little high, so you don't get surprised, like with the engine blows in the plow truck. $35,000
pretty much
later.
have that down to a science, it's just,
Do you get refund from the state of New York for trail maintenance?
For the Moose River Plains.
Moose River Plains, do you have that amount?
It's about, well, we only get a certain amount allocated. It changes every year, but this year it's probably gonna be about 7,000.
Yeah, not a lot. Doesn't pay for the gas.
Right.
They cap you. Well, they cap you at a certain, even though I can substantiate 100,000,
Yeah, no,
they
no,
give me.
imagine.
Yeah, they give you a
That's
certain
pretty
amount.
bad.
And
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's all a percentage.
And the permit's not needed for Moose River Plains, right?
Right.
That's correct.
So,
Yeah, anywhere we do charge a permit, we're not allowed to build New
Yeah,
York State
yeah.
for at all.
right.
Any more questions from our board? Any more questions from Inlet Town Board?
Do you think it's working? Quite honestly.
I think the relationship is extremely important, and yes, so in that respect, it is working. I really like some of the stuff that you're talking about, and would like for us and Mike to be able to look at that a little more thoroughly, maybe with more information from you guys too, because I personally don't want to jeopardize the relationship that does work well.
Yes.
I think we all
Yeah.
feel that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's super important.
It's just something that we need to look into.
I mean,
It hasn't been looked into for years, as you all know.
Way too long, yeah.
So it's time to relook at it, and
And this was very informative, like just some of the different things that we just don't know, the inner workings. I mean, I'm shocked by the $7,000 from Moose River Plains. That's obviously a huge asset of getting people connecting to coming over here and adding the mileage on, even though we're not getting paid really for it too. We need to keep these programs going. We need to keep this relationship going in some way. It's just a matter of figuring out the right balance that we can all agree to, going forward. I do like the idea of the software, they have a database at each one, because I mean, that has been a big thing here as far as the amount of work being done. It has skewed quite heavily on filling out the permits, it seems like, and the labor intensive part of it that does go on over here. So I think that might be something that we should definitely be looking at, how we can make that better. I know that we are changing the credit card processing fees so that they're not going to be taxed on top of that. And I'm pretty sure that's going to be resolved.
We're all getting beat down by the price of these machines, it's absurd. The cost of these machinery is just mind blowing, really.
nuts and
parts.
bolts, parts.
Yeah,
Parts.
the whole cycle of these machines is just.
Yep.
we got a set of tracks that's 2 years old, and we're fighting to try and get some coverage on. They're already splitting. Never mind the price of it, but just the stuff doesn't last anymore.
a lot of it's the conditions we're running them on.
It is, but, you know, you still wonder. And through the years, you know, we've had loose mounts on radiators come through, you know, a bunch of different stuff. It's just, pride and workmanship doesn't seem to be quite what it used to be for some of the stuff. So you gotta plan more ahead for it.
Now, Chuck has mentioned that, you know, running over these rocks and stuff like that, it's just beating the heck out of these machines.
One more question. How far down where do you stop grooming at? Is it right at Eagle Bay?
We go to Big Moose Road, I believe.
Right, yeah, they cross over to in front of Big Moose.
And then do you do the Uncas Road all the way up to Racket Lake, or?
No, we used to. We have people living back there now in the winter. It's quite honestly a bone of contention sometimes between some of the people in Racket Lake and us. You know, if the ambulance has to get there, we have to plow. The barnstormers were tasked with grooming the side of the road. When Paul Chambers left town for the winters, I don't know why he did that. You know, he was the guy that would clean the driveways up. When that stopped happening, it became a problem. So we've been trying to do a little of that. There's no easy, the Uncas Road is no easy picnic. But it's access.
And we got that problem too on Arondax Road.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
And Big Moose Road sometimes too, but at least you've got Trail 10 that goes back to Big Moose.
So are you guys looking to keep this current, like what we have now, like to?
Well, we're not looking to lose any percentage. I mean, we could add some if you want to talk about that. I'm all good with it, but, you know, we're certainly not looking to lose percentage.
If percentage was to go away, I'll be quite honest, I've talked about it in open meetings before, you might force our hands to go free.
Okay, well, we have a lot to discuss between us in the next month or so here.
My personal thoughts are it should be 17%.
But we,
It's just my personal.
well, I have to be honest, I have to watch out for the taxpayers of the town of Webb, and that's my number one concern.
Yeah, we have a concern like that too.
I know you do. We have the same concerns, yes.
How many miles does Town of Webb go?
127. And that's not roads, we don't include roads, we do trails only, we do not include our roads. If we included roads, it'd be totally different story.
How many groomers?
5.
Yeah. So I mean, you see a little bit of the balance there. Number of groomers.
Yeah.
We got 2.5, they have 5.
Yes, I mean, it's a balance in your favor on that line. Just one more point, you know, because you mentioned it. We work together. You know, the people that come here don't know where the county and the town line is.
No.
You know, we've talked about many things through the years, but even right now, you know, we've got our assessor down here helping you out. You know, we've had your police chief up helping us out. Even back when Andrew had his heart attack, we had the police chief come up and help us out. Going way back, Don Townsend came down here and helped out, I think, Code's office years and years ago. You know,
Amy's currently coming.
well, that's what I just said. Amy's here with the assessor. It's just, to me, watching out for the taxpayers is helping keep the tourism stable. And to me, this is stable. If it isn't broken, don't fix it. If you want some advice on budgeting, I'm always willing to give it, but nobody ever wants to hear it. But you know, there's ways to make that happen and keep. I'd like to say keep the taxpayers happy. I don't think that ever happens.
No.
So.
I can certainly find out how many miles we're talking about also. It looks like there was quite a lot in conversation as to what came about for that 14% between attorneys and that kind of thing. There must have been some kind of formula they figured on, is that we have 14% as opposed to you, I don't know. But there's no
That certainly
exact
could
mileage.
have changed over the years.
Oh, right,
you know.
yeah, absolutely.
Just out of curiosity, just hypothetical, would Inlet ever consider maybe going down Trail 5 a little bit too, and doing some of that if it needed it, like, or if there was like more areas of coverage? You know, like I know it gets beat up over there quite a bit fast, so it's hard for groomers to always do that. So maybe if there was
On a regular basis, you think, or on an emergency
here,
basis?
but you know, just
Because I think on an emergency basis, I can't speak totally, but we would help out whenever we needed to if something was. I don't know about a regular basis.
We've done that for Indian Lake. And you know, Indian Lake's equipment is slowly coming up. They never used to have a blade on the front of their groomers. So we would every once in a while go all the way over. And on an emergency or almost a regular basis for a couple of winters there. To me, there's nothing that's not on the table.
okay.
Just like
Again, that never was caught up with anybody.
Yeah.
I just
No, but it's,
percentages
we wanna
and
work
stuff like
together.
that.
We wanna work together.
we're kind of doing that now, grooming the FX Mats Trail over to the Red Dog. I think literally from the Limekiln Lake Road over to South Shore Road, you know, even with the state land there, you're talking probably 2/3 of that is on Webb's property, I think. I may be wrong.
I think
on
so,
that.
but that's a brutally rocky trail too. I mean, that's.
We gotta wait for snow on that one.
Yeah, that's a.
And the state won't let us pull rocks.
Right.
Imagine
Doesn't
that.
make
Or
any
cut
sense.
trees.
What about employees? Are you guys struggle to, do you have enough? You know, is that an issue? Because that's what kind of worries me a little bit too in the future, like from both towns, being able to find people to keep doing this kind of work and the pay and all that goes along with it, you know?
I could use 3 lifeguards and 2 highway employees if you got them. And I get your,
We know where I'm talking.
well, the employees though, employees with the
That's what I
grooming,
meant, groomers, yeah.
Yeah.
we decided a long time ago to take an employee and split it between parks and grooming. And the guy that's in charge of it, Chip Sauer, is a highway employee, but in the winter, he becomes the trail guy. And he's running the trail program. And he gets the parks guy, Patrick Quinn, and the 2 of them are our main groomers. And we can borrow from the highway staff. We're down 2 highway guys. So that could be problematic, but,
Hard to borrow, yeah.
huh?
It's hard to borrow.
It's hard to borrow.
You have 3 operational groomers during the winter. How many people do you have that can run those machines? I guess is my,
2
That
full-time,
can run them,
what's that?
2 full-time, 2 part-time, right?
2 full-time and 2 part-time that can be borrowed. We can borrow,
They take from other.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, most people from Highway could drift in, couldn't they?
That's the part-time.
Sure.
In the past, we've had other part-timers that were on regular, but when we decided to add another person to the payroll and split it between parks and trails, we had to get the money from somewhere.
You run 2 shifts?
That we do not do right now. And that's another thing that's open for discussion. Doing the Moose River Plains, it makes it hard. You're sending somebody way back into the middle of nowhere that until the 2 new towers get lit up, you don't know where they are. You know, going towards Eagle Bay, I've pushed what I call vanity grooming to where, you know, when it's gelatinous and you can't do anything with it, I still want the groomers going back and forth. So that probably gets more attention than it should, but it needs it.
Right.
It's just beat down though, it's always wrong.
Same thing with Trail 5. I mean, as soon as those guys go over it and you get 3 groups goosing it, you know, you're getting the calls probably, Trail 5 sucks, what are you doing?
Right.
Oh, yeah. Very common.
Any more questions, anyone? Mike?
I got one point about the contract and when those figures were set.
Yeah.
Since that time, the number of permits, the volume has changed drastically. When I started here in 2010, we were selling just under 8,000 permits out of this office. We're now over 17,000.
When I started, we were selling them at night in Inlet, and we were cutting web checks every year.
Yep.
You know, it's where the technology's taken us, it's where, you know, access has taken us, it's a bunch of different reasons, but it's gone back and forth over the years. That's why we really strongly suggest the software to try and help mitigate some of that. I think it will make a big improvement for both towns.
It'd be nice to balance out the processing part of it. I mean, I think that's what we're all doing here, right? We're trying to figure out a formula that we can wrap our heads around and make sense of it, right? And
Yeah.
just that's basically, we have a lot of information here now to kind of juggle and figure out what
We've got a lot to go over.
that is.
Software might be smoother for the riders getting their permits too. It might just be a smoother event, you know, for everybody. It's possible.
We thank you guys for listening and having us in.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
we
man.
appreciate
Thank
you guys
do
coming.
too.
Yeah, no. Yeah, thanks for coming
I
down.
know how busy everybody is.